Chapter 25. Abraham took another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimron, Jokshan, Midian, underline Midian, probably the most important offspring from this marriage. Ishbak and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. The sons of Dedan were Ashurim, Lidashim, and Leumim. The sons of Midian, most important from this marriage, were Ephah, Epher, Hanak, Abida, and Eldah. All these were the children of Keturah. Abraham gave all he had to Isaac. But to the sons of his concubines, Abraham gave gifts. And while he was still living, he sent them away from his son Isaac eastward to the east country. So Moses' wife is going to be a descendant of Midian. It also seems like, since the word concubines is in the plural, it seems like Hagar, after the death of Sarah, probably came back. But because the covenant is to pass through to Isaac, and Isaac is to be inheritor of everything, he sets them up nicely with some gifts, but then they go east. Okay, they are not the covenantal people. Verse 7, these are the days of the years of Abraham's life, 175 years. Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. Isaac and Ishmael, his sons, buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, east of Marm, the field which Abraham purchased from the Hittites. There Abraham was buried with Sarah his wife. After the death of Abraham, God blessed Isaac his son, and Isaac dwelt at Beher Laroi. These are the descendants of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's maid, bore to Abraham. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, named in the order of their birth. Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael, and Kedar, Abdil, Mizbam, Mishma, so on and so forth. He has 12 sons. So you have 12 tribes of Ishmael, which is in contrast to the 12 tribes of Israel, who will be Jacob's descendants, Jacob being the son of Isaac. Verse 18, they dwelt from Havilah to Shur, which is opposite Egypt in the direction of Assyria. He settled over against all his people. So the prophecy was fulfilled that Ishmael and his descendants will always have their hands raised against their neighbors. In verse 19, we get to the story of the birth of Harry and Tripper. That is what their names mean. Esau means hairy, and not like Tom, Dick, and Harry, but Harry is in Hairy. The kid was born super hairy, and they named him the hairy one. And Jacob means tripper, someone who supplants, someone who is maybe going to deceive you in some way, who's going to trip you up. So verse 19, these are the descendants of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took to wife Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padanaram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean. And Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren. This is another example of Isaac being like one of those exemplary patriarchs. Not to knock on Abraham, but you never get anywhere that Abraham prays on behalf of Sarah. But you do have Isaac praying on behalf of his wife, and because she was barren, and the Lord hears his prayer, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. Yes, ma'am.
Why are all the women in the Bible barren?
Because it's actually like a little more common than it's a little sad. Like fertility struggles is more common than people would like it to be. I don't remember the statistic, but it's something like it's either like 3 out of every 10 couples struggles with it or something.
But like specifically, is God like making? Because like it talked about like the king when he took Sarah, and he like healed the king's house.
Right. Well, that like as soon as the king had taken Sarah, God struck the house with barrenness.
So it's like
and then he like removed the curse after Sarah had been returned to Abraham. So that's like an example of supernatural barrenness, as opposed to just naturally some people are barren.
And was it the same way with Sarah? Or not?
No, she was naturally barren. Yeah. But God's also choosing these people, right, to also show his glory and his might. Handpicking the lowly in salvation history and then elevating them to a position of glorification, right? You kind of get that, like, think of Mary's Magnificat, the whole theme of that prayer. All right, so verse 22, Rebecca conceives. Verse 22, the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it is thus, why do I live? So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples born of you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other. The elder shall serve the younger. When her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came forth red, all his body like a hairy mantle. So they called his name Esau. Afterward, his brother came forth, and his hand had taken hold of Esau's heel. So his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. So Jacob, one of his first things he does as a baby is he grabs Esau by the heel. And if you know how to trip someone, all you got to do is when they're walking is just take a nice swipe at their heel and they're going to fall over. All right. And Jacob's going to be doing this constantly in his life, being a little trickster. Someone who's going to trip people up. Yes, Asheron.
Must be something like, what God said to you this morning. You'll check it too. Doesn't matter now.
So in the striking, right, that's like warfare imagery, and what's being intended here is more the tricking imagery, because Jacob's not going to be a warrior, right? And while him and Esau have conflict, it's not to the same degree of like Christ and the serpent. So this is more of the if you want to trip someone, you trip at their heel. In the context of a battle, you might give someone a leg wound, but they're going to live to fight another day. Verse 27, when the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man, dwelling in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once, when Jacob was boiling pottage, Esau came in from the field, and he was famished. And Esau said to Jacob, let me eat some of that red pottage, for I am famished. Therefore, his name was called Edom. He got a nickname here. Edom means red. So because he said, let me eat that red stuff, his new nickname now is Red. And the country that his descendants live in is called Edom. So later on in the Old Testament, when you hear about the Edomites, or the people living in Edom, south of Israel, those are the descendants of Esau. Jacob said, first, sell me your birthright. The birthright that Jacob's asking for here is the material possession. So there's going to be 2 instances where Jacob is taking something from Esau. The first is the birthright. This is just the breakdown of the will. All right. After dad passes away, Jacob is now going to get the material birthright. So in the Old Testament, in much of the ancient world, you would get a double portion if you were the eldest son. So if you had three sons, what you would do is you would divide your property up 4 ways. And the eldest son would get 2 portions of the division, and then the other sons would get a quarter each. And that's the birthright of the eldest. He gets a double portion. Another mathematic example. If you have 2 sons, like in this instance, Isaac's going to divide up his wealth into thirds, and Esau's going to get 2/3, and Jacob will get 1/3. But what Esau is now selling to Jacob is that right for those 2/3. So for some pottage, he gives up his birthright. So verse 32, Esau said, I'm about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me? Verse 33, Jacob said, swear to me first. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he ate and drank and rose and went away. Thus Esau despised his birthright. That doesn't mean he proactively hated his birthright, but this is a very Semitic way of speaking. It's like he counted it as nothing if you're trading this away for, a simple bowl of pottage. I highly doubt he was actually close to dying. Chapter 26. Now there was a famine in the land, besides the former famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Gerar to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. The short and skinny of it is that this is a story that compares Isaac to Abraham. And whereas when there's a famine, Abraham would start wandering and move around the land. Isaac does not leave. Again, another example of Isaac being a really righteous patriarch. He does not leave the land that's been promised to him. He stays and remains behind. Later on, he does make another covenant with Abimelech. So let's jump ahead to verse 26, chapter 26, verse 28. They said, "We see plainly that the Lord is with you, so we say, let there be an oath between you and us, and let us make a covenant." So I just point that out to you so you can, again, just continue to grow familiar that when you see that language between you and me, between us, that is covenantal language. So when you go back and you notice it anywhere else, okay, between you and me, I know what's coming. So Isaac, he stays in the land. Verse 34. When Esau was 40 years old, he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basmath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. And they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. All right, so Esau, he despises his birthright, and now he's become a polygamist. And what do polygamists do?
Murder.
They murder people. Okay, so we're going to see some murderous intentions coming out from Esau. And he's also married 2 pagan women, right? So that's bad. That's not like from Abraham to Isaac. The whole point was do not take one of those Canaanites because they're going to lead you away into polygamy, polygamy, but then also polytheism. So Esau is not being set up super well here. Chapter 27. When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Behold, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me, and prepare for me savory food, such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that I may bless you before I die." So Jacob is now going to pass on the covenantal, the spiritual inheritance to Esau. And that's his intention. Verse 5, now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game and bring it, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "I heard your father speak to your brother Esau. Bring me game and prepare for me savory food, that I may eat it and bless you before the Lord before I die. Now therefore, my son, obey my word as I command you." Here you get, it's the same old story. The guy's listening to the voice of his mom. The woman's leading Jacob to do something wrong. All right, he's going to lie to his father and steal a spiritual blessing from his elder brother. The fact that Esau sold his birthright, the material wealth, does not give Jacob the right to then take this covenantal spiritual blessing. Okay, so Jacob is not in the right here. Sometimes people try to justify Jacob's actions. That's not the moral lesson of the story. Verse 9, go to the flock and fetch me 2 good kids, that I may prepare from them savory food for your father, such as he loves. And you shall bring it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies. But Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, "Behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him, and bring a curse upon myself, and not a blessing." His mother said, "Upon me be your curse, my son. Only obey my word, and go fetch them to me." So he went and took them, and brought them to his mother, and his mother prepared savory food, such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her older son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And the skins of the kids she put on his hands and upon the smooth part of his neck. So she dresses him up in Esau's clothes so that he smells like Esau, right? This is before Tide dish, like laundry detergent, right? And washing machines. So your clothes are always going to carry your scent around with you, okay? Always going to be a little smelly. And to illustrate how hairy Esau is, she is sewing like sheepskin and wool to his hands and to his neck. All right, if you ever gone up and pet a sheep, like that is how hairy Esau is. All right, it's almost like, is Esau the origins of like the Sasquatch mythology? I don't know, but really, really, very, very hairy guy. Verse 17, and she gave the savory food and bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son, the trickster. So he went in to his father and said, my father, and he said, here I am. Who are you, my son? Trickster said to his father, I am Harry, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game that you may bless me. But Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? He answered, because the Lord your God granted me success. Then Isaac said to Jacob, come near that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not. So the trickster went near to Isaac, his father, who felt him and said, the voice is the trickster's voice, but the hands are the hands of Harry. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Harry's hands. So he blessed him and said, are you really my son Harry? He answered, I am. Then he said, bring it to me that I may eat of my son's game and bless you. So he brought it to him, and he ate and brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father, laughter, said to him, come near and kiss me, my son. So he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his garments, and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, when Trickster had scarcely gone out from the presence of Laughter, his father, Harry, his brother, came in from his hunting. He also prepared savory food and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, let my father rise and eat of his son's game, that you may bless me. His father Isaac said to him, who are you? He answered, I'm your firstborn, Harry. Then Isaac trembled violently and said, who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me, and I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him? Yes, and he shall be blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, bless me, even me also, O my father. But he said, your brother came with guile, and he has taken away your blessing. Esau said, is he not rightly named Trickster, for he has supplanted or tricked me these 2 times? He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. Then he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? Isaac answered Esau, behold, I have made him your lord, and all his brothers I have given to him for servants, and with grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son? Esau said to his father, have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered him, behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of the heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you break loose, you shall break his yoke from your neck. Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are approaching. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. So the polygamist is now ready and has murderous intentions in his heart. But the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, behold, your brother Esau comforts himself by planning to kill you. Now, therefore, my son, Obey my voice. Do this a second time. Arise, flee to Laban, my brother, in Haran, and stay with him a while until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and fetch you from there. Why should I be bereft of both in one day? So make a note here, bad chapter division. This is really where the chapter should end, because we've ended one story. And verse 46 begins the story that continues with chapter 20, verse 1. Verse 46, then Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women, such as these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me? Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him, you shall not marry one of the Canaanite women. Hang on. Rebekah was complaining about the Hittite women. Then Jacob says, don't marry the Canaanite women. So the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Jebusites, whatever, you can refer to the people of the land just by calling them the Canaanites. All right? This is what they're doing in the Old Testament. It's what people have done for most of history. Another example, in America, before it became politically incorrect to do this, you would just refer to a lot of the Latinos in California as the Mexicans, okay? Where they're Guatemalans and non-Mexicans in California. Yeah, but you just threw out that one region to cover the whole swath of the people. So that's what they do here in the Old Testament. You're going to see references to the Canaanites, and it can encompass all the other people of the land as well. Verse 2, arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take as wife from there one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may become a company of peoples. May he give the blessing of Abraham to you and to your descendants with you, that you may take possession of the land of your sojournings, which God gave to Abraham. Thus Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram, to Laban, to the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob, and Esau's mother. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram to take a wife from there, and that as he blessed him, he charged him, you shall not marry one of the Canaanite women. And that Jacob had obeyed his father, and his mother had gone to Padan Aram. So when Esau saw the Canaanite women did not please Isaac his father, Esau went to Ishmael and took to wife, besides the wives he had, Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth. All right? So Esau's idea of fixing the problem is to, well, he just sent Jacob away to go marry a relative. I guess my dad really wants me to marry relatives instead, so how about I add a third wife? This will be an Ishmaelite, our long-distant cousin. Or our not-so-long-distant cousin. Yes, Ashron.
So, when in the Bible they put like the ban on the incestual relationships. What the Old Testament? What are they considering that? Because if Isaac sending his son to marry a cousin is not.
Yeah. So incest laws don't exist actually until the Law of Moses, and our modern day incest laws are still based on the Law of Moses. But until the Law of Moses is proclaimed on Mount Sinai, like the patriarchs are not growing up with that. They're not growing up with the Ten Commandments. It's not part of their peripheral. So, yeah, it is what it is at this point. There's no law against it. Verse 10, Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran, and he came to a certain place and stayed there that night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I'm the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and your descendants. And your descent shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And by you and your descent shall all the families of the earth bless themselves. Behold, I am with you, and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I've done that of which I've spoken to you. So make a note here to John chapter 1. John chapter 1, verse 51. So Jacob has this vision of, the ladders and the angels ascending and descending. And in John chapter 1, verse 51, Jesus is in the same place. All right, this is going to be called Bethel. And Jesus makes this proclamation behold, I see the heavens open and the angels ascending and descending. And what he's referencing is he's making a reference back to Jacob and the dream that Jacob has of this ladder. Verse 16, then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid. And he said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. House of God is Bethel. Bethel means house of God. One way to help always catch these things is if you see EL in a name or a place, it's an abbreviation for Elohim, which is the Hebrew word for God. So Beth El, abbreviation, and Beth is house. You might know of Bethlehem, which means house of bread. So Beth in Hebrew is house, El, God. And this is the gate of heaven. Verse 18. So Jacob rose early in the morning, and he took the stone which he had put under his head and set it up for a pillar and poured oil on top of it. What he's doing is he's anointing the rock. So when you anoint something in the Old Testament, you are consecrating it. You're setting it aside for a sacred purpose. And so in confirmation or baptism, when you get anointed, it comes from this long tradition of oils used for consecration. And it's also going to be signifying the presence of God. So he called the name of that place Bethel, which means house of God. But the name of the city was Luz at first. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and clothing to wear, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God, and the stone which I have set up for a pillar shall be God's house. And all that you give me, I will give a tenth to you. Chapter 29. Jacob meets Rachel. Then Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east. Okay, so again, just emphasizing that Jacob did not do the morally right thing. Jacob is going to have to do some penance now for tricking his father like that. He's gone eastward. He's left the covenantal family behind temporarily. He's going to make his return. As he looked, he saw a ding dong, wedding bells. He saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep lying beside it, for out of that well the flocks were watered. The stone on the well's mouth was large. How many times do you think we're going to read well? 7 times? Okay. And when all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep and put the stone back in its place upon the mouth of the well. Jacob said to him, my brothers there, where do you come from? They said, we are from Haran. He said to them, do you know Laban, the daughter of Nahor? They said, we know him. And he said to them, is it well with them? They said, it is well. Now this is a different kind of well. Don't count this into the, we're drawing wells. And see, Rachel, his daughter, is coming with the sheep. He said, behold, it is still high day. It is not time for the animals to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go pasture them. But they said, we cannot until all the flocks are gathered together and the stone is rolled from the mouth of the well. Then we water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. Now when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob went up and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. When Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Jacob told Laban all these things, and Laban said to him, "Surely you are of my bone and my flesh," and he stayed with him a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my kinsman, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful and lovely. What does that mean that Leah's eyes were weak? I don't really know, but probably is some ancient expression for she wasn't that good looking. But Rachel was beautiful and lovely. Verse 18, Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, "I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to any other man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, that I may go into her, for my time is completed." So Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. But in the evening, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to the trickster, and he went into her. So the trickster is now getting tricked. Laban gave his maid Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her maid. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And Jacob said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me?" Laban said, "It is not so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn." All right, so this is Jacob eating his just desserts. He tricked his older brother out of what was due to him as the elder, and now he is getting tricked by his uncle as part of his penance, and he is now given the older sister. Also, in the cultures at this time, Zilpah, the maid that's mentioned, is also given to Jacob as a concubine. So he's going to have children with Leah as well as with Zilpah. And how did Jacob make this mistake? Well, in the old weddings, the bride would be heavily veiled, and sometimes sisters can have very similar voices. But you'd be heavily veiled, and then you'd proceed into a tent at night, and the tent is heavily cloaked, right? They don't have kerosene lamps. They don't have flashlights in these tents. They didn't put LED lights, whatever, in these tents. So you can't really see anything. They probably sound the same. And also, part of Jacob eating his just desserts here is that Isaac, his father, also couldn't see. So Jacob's put in a position, a situation where he can't see, and he's tricked into marrying Leah first. Verse 27. "Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other also in return for serving me another 7 years." So complete the week. Wedding feast lasts a whole week. It was a long, drawn-out affair. So after the first night of the wedding, he realized he's tricked. Well, finish out this week, and then you can have the younger one if you work for me another 7 years. Jacob did so and completed her week. Then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to wife. Laban gave his maid Bilhah to his daughter Rachel to be her maid. So Jacob went into Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served Laban another 7 years. All right, let's get to the end of the chapter. When the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb. This is a very Semitic way of speaking. It doesn't mean that Leah is actually hated by Jacob. What it means is preferred to. All right, if you're going to contrast with love and hate, you can just say it's preferring. So, like, if you like pepperoni pizza better than cheese pizza, in a Semitic way of speaking, it's like the cheese pizza is hated. It's like, no, you'll still eat it. It's fine. But the one is preferred over the other. So the Lord opens her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. Highlight Reuben. He is the firstborn from the first wife. To him, the blessing should go through, but he's going to screw it up later. For she said, "Because the Lord has looked upon my affliction, surely now my husband will love me." She conceived again and bore a son and said, because the Lord has heard that I am hated, he has given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. Underline Simeon, highlight him. Again, she conceived and bore a son and said, now this time my husband will be joined to me because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore his name was called Levi. Underline, highlight Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son and said, this time I will praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah. Then she ceased bearing. Underline, highlight Judah. These are 4 key players in salvation history, as well as Joseph and Benjamin. Probably those are like the 6 most important sons.